There are a lot of bad feelings about meetings out there. I would like your meetings to become better, or perhaps disappear. I'll also show you how you can use a recording of a meeting to waste time in a way that you choose, but more about that later. Hi, my name is Aino Corry and I'm a guest today in Dave Farley's Continuous Delivery channel. Welcome to this channel. If you've not been here before, please hit subscribe, and if you enjoy the content today, hit like as well. Before we begin, a thank you to our channel sponsors, Equal Experts, Tricentis, Transfix, Sleuth, Ice Panel, all of whom help us grow the channel and provide products that well align with what we discuss on this channel. From the article, The Science and Fiction of Meetings from 2007, we know that employees spend increasing amounts of time in meetings and love to complain publicly about them. But although they complain, privately the employees see meetings as a productivity tool, one that companies can learn to use better. One of the reasons people hate meetings is because they see them as a waste of time, which they often are. There's even a Chrome extension that will allow you to get the cost of any meeting calculated while you are in the meeting. Scary. With people dreading meetings, they show up only because they have to, now often online without video and muted. This could be because they're half-heartedly trying to do other things at the same time. And in those cases, time is really wasted by half-arsing a meeting and simultaneously half-arsing something else. One reaction to this behavior is to force people to stay in meetings and turn the camera on, but that rarely improves the motivation. They would be better off staying away from the meeting. In that way, people would at least know that they'd not listened. But hate and negativity rarely get us anywhere. Could we fix the problem instead? Could we learn to love meetings? Perhaps not, but we can fix them to some extent. An obvious thing would be to completely abandon meetings, and I'm definitely a proponent for turning meetings into emails, if possible. But as Elizabeth Ayer says in her blog post, meetings are the work. We cannot live completely without meetings because we are knowledge workers. And also, based on Microsoft's 2022 Work Trend Index, we are spending 253% more time in meetings now than before the pandemic. They're here to stay, and we should make the most of them. One reason that meetings become a waste of time is that all meetings are treated the same, even though when we say meeting, we actually mean different things. I think this problem has been worsened by all the online communication. Every conversation is now a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting. I've even called the online chats I have with friends abroad meetings, because that's what it says in my calendar. And when we look at all meetings as the same, we behave in the same way around all meetings, and we should not do that. We might mean one-on-one meetings, which are often praised by the people in them, like when my parents met in the forest. I think that was a great meeting. The one-on-one meetings are often ad hoc, chosen by all participants and uncontroversial, thus I'll not spend time on these. But it could also be decision-making meetings. These are called when an action needs to be taken by a group, but there are almost always too many people in that room, and the discussions are rarely facilitated strictly enough. Problem-solving meetings. These are used when a group needs to come together to solve a specific problem. They often need more preparation than people think, both on the part of the meeting leader, but also on the part of the participants. Team-building meetings. These meetings are used to build cohesion within a group and improve the way team members work together, but they should be really well facilitated to work. Brainstorming meetings. These are used to generate new ideas or make links between novel or innovative concepts. We'll deal with brainstorming in a different video. Planning meetings. Held regularly, these are used to plan how a team will execute the company's goals. They should be well prepared and facilitated. Status meetings. These meetings are used to monitor task progress against an expected outcome, but perhaps they could turn into asynchronous communication. Different people hate different kinds of meetings for different reasons. So let's take a look at that. Obviously, the different types of meetings demand different preparation and facilitation. We should not have the same meeting structure for all meetings. If we began to look at the different types of meetings in a more realistic way, we would know how to prepare them in a different way and get much more out of them. Another quote from the science and fictions of meetings is, "In order to improve meetings, companies need to focus on 3 fronts: improving employees' skills in meetings, improving managers' skills in meetings, and implementing best and innovative practices for running particular types of meetings." Let's look at those one at a time, not necessarily in that order. Let's start with concrete actions to help improving managers' skills in meetings, because it's often the manager or the team lead that creates meetings, and then they're most responsible when it comes to meeting quality. We already know that we should always make meetings with an agenda, specific success criteria, and careful invitations instead of mass invitations. But are you also aware that it might make sense to cut up the meeting into smaller meetings with a well-defined input and output, instead of having one huge meeting with everyone invited? A bit like how it makes sense to commit to trunk for every change, instead of creating a huge branch that's difficult to merge. You could also consider starting every meeting 5 minutes past the hour and ending it 5 minutes before. But then show up on the hour anyway to socialize with the people who show up early. Once you have created a habit of that, they know they can reach you to ask last-minute questions before the meeting, or just tell a joke. And it goes without saying that you should respect the people who show up on time by starting on time, and not just wait a few minutes. This can create a bad habit of people showing up later and later, and of course end the meeting on time. A good meeting facilitator calculates when we won't finish and finds a conclusion to the meeting, which might include meeting again, perhaps not with all the same people. If you're running late already, there's no chance that you will solve this by going 5 minutes over time, and you'll just annoy everybody. I've seen this so many times and it never works. The next point to improve was implementing best and innovative practices for running particular types of meetings. You can Google for ways to facilitate efficient meetings, but I'll point out the most important ones here. The life cycle of a meeting consists of different phases. We start with the beginning of the meeting, where we all agree, hopefully, on what the purpose of the meeting is and what the boundaries of the meeting are. Then we go into the divergence of the meeting, where we add data to the conversation, our experiences, other approaches, or ideas we could use. Then the middle part of the meeting, the so-called groan zone. Despite the name, which was coined by Sam Kana, some people love this part of the meeting. This is where we agree to disagree to the extent needed in order to wrestle a difficult problem. We're keeping the conversation open. And then we move to the convergence of the meeting, where we go towards some agreement. We cut off the branches of discussion. We end some idea paths in order to reach the end of the meeting, the conclusion, where we reach a decision, which might be to have another meeting. In these stages, it is important to facilitate the participants. If someone steps outside the boundaries of the meeting or starts discussing some things in excruciating detail, you might add that discussion to a piece of the meeting board called the parking lot. This is where you park discussions or details you do not need right now, but that you might come back to later or in another meeting. If people do not behave respectfully towards each other, you can also call for a timeout, where you pause or even stop the meeting, and at the very least stop the bad behavior. While in one of the discussion phases, beware of overuse of the much used plenary discussion, where it is survival of the loudest. People can be placed on a spectrum between being active thinkers and reflective thinkers. People on the active thinker side needs to be active to think. They need to speak or do something with their hands. Reflective thinkers need time on their own, preferably in quiet, to think. If you think about these types, you can probably think of one active thinker and one reflective thinker. Maybe it's yourself. Needless to say, active thinkers love plenary discussions because they get to think aloud and say something and to sound like they're smart, while the reflective thinkers get frustrated because they need time to think and they do not get that. They might even be seen as slow or stupid because they cannot think on their feet. But it's such a shame to lose their input in the discussions. To get them involved, you could add writing instead of speaking and breakout rooms instead of plenary discussions. To conclude the meeting, take the time to summarize what happened briefly. For instance, we met today to decide on the process for testing vendor software against our own software, and we decided that Leela would look into it in more detail and we would continue as we have done until now, because there is no apparent better process. And after the meeting, send out an email to everyone who was there to remind them of the action points. But this is what you can do if you're the organizer of the meeting. What if you're the participant? The last point to improve was the employee's skills in meetings. Sometimes your aversion towards meetings is not just due to a waste of precious time. It could also be because you often have to say that you did not do what you promised to do, or you have to explain why you did not do what you promised to do. Maybe you'll get more tasks as a result of the decisions in the meeting. Maybe you have to ask for help from other people to do your tasks. Or maybe you do not feel that you have a role there. You do not dare to say anything because you are shy or you feel stupid. Maybe you feel that whatever you say won't count, or maybe you just haven't prepared for the meeting and you feel bad about that. What can you do yourself when you're invited to a meeting? You can ask why you're invited if it's not obvious. You can ask for an agenda, you can decline, and you can even leave during the meeting. Ask yourself before a meeting what type of participant you'll be. Will you be an explorer who expects to get a lot out of the meeting and really looks forward to it? Or are you a shopper who might take a few things with them from the meeting? Or maybe a vacationer who'd rather be at a meeting than doing the other work, or sees it as a way to procrastinate? Or maybe you're a prisoner, which I don't think I have to explain. If you are an explorer or a shopper, you'll be just fine in the meeting. If, on the other hand, you're a prisoner, you should seriously consider not joining the meeting. And if you're a vacationer and you don't mind having a vacation just now, you can just lean back and enjoy. Some people have made meeting vacations a lifestyle to an extent I did not know until I did some research. While searching for inspiration for this video, I stumbled upon a very popular YouTube video of a committee meeting. What made me wonder was the fact that this extremely boring video had over 1 million views. Skimming the video did not explain this. It's just a bunch of heads talking about status updates and sometimes some mind-bendingly tedious slides. The answer was in the comments section. It turns out that people are using this video, with or without sound, to make colleagues or even their family think that they are in an important meeting so that no one disturbs them. Some of them have even learned to laugh to make it look like they're listening. I don't know what they're doing while they pretend to watch this. One said that he would turn the sound up and get a nap while his wife stopped the children from disturbing him in the home office. Others probably play Candy Crush. So, apart from a link to a recording of a meeting that will allow you to do what you want instead of what other people want you to do, what are you taking away? Stop thinking of meetings as a homogeneous thing. Respect the different types of meetings and prepare accordingly. Facilitate all meetings, cancel some of them, or divide them into smaller meetings, and normalize leaving meetings when you are not contributing or getting anything out of that. In that way, meetings are a bit like sex. Even though you accept it in the beginning, you do not have to follow through if you do not like it. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in learning more ideas and techniques for teamwork and leadership in tech teams, check out our Teamwork and Leadership playlist that you can see here.